It is time to short Euro NZD. Welcome back to another live trading video. I'm taking a position right as we speak. I'm on my live terminal, no fake MT4 stuff here. We are going to be taking a real trade here. And if you watch to the end of the video, we'll see how this trade plays out. Okay, so what we want to do here is I want to put a stop loss on my trade. I'm going to put a stop loss of about 65 pips to give some room to run in case things retest the 61.8. So that's going to put me at 65 pips of a stop loss. I'm going to risk $800 on this trade. So we'll go 198,000 units to the short side, comes out at a US dollar risk of $800, just approximately. And we're going to go ahead and click sell with the stop loss in place, double check everything, market order, good to go, and bam, we are now into the short position. Now, the reason I just did that is because I want to show you guys, or I want to jump into the trade, and then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually explain how this trade is going to be broken down right after I do a write-up for the community. Give me 1 second. All right, and we are now officially into the trade. I just shared this inside of the group so that you guys can see it. For those of you who are already members, just wrote down the full breakdown of the trade to make sure that members could see why I'm taking the position right as I take it, with screenshots attached, etc. Remember that if you would like access to this, the link will be down below in the description. Okay, so here is a little bit of insight behind why the trade was just taken. So what I'll do here is I'll go through that now in terms of price action first. So what we can see here is I've got a couple things already drawn on the screen. We've got our fib levels. So we drew from the swing high to the swing low, which gave us our levels on the screen. So let me see if I can zoom in here so you can see that a little bit. So of course we have the standard stuff, the 38.2, the 50%, and the 61.8. I just took this trade after price has just retested the 50% retracement, and I'm looking for basically a continuation of the overall downward trend that we've seen on this currency pair in recent times. Now, on top of that, there's some other things, but let's talk about the stop loss placement. So I just placed a stop loss just above this previous swing high here. Gave it a little bit of room to run. Really what I'm looking for is for this trend to continue to the downside and put in a lower high pretty soon here. I don't really want to see this high get taken out. In fact, this was a pretty good level of resistance for sellers if we look left. And so I don't really want to see price start rallying past that level. If that happens, we'll scrap the trade and take a $800 loss on the position. Conversely, if things roll over here as I'm anticipating and we start getting down into this area, which is kind of our target zone, then we could have some good money on the table here. And in that case, what I will do is I'll look to trail my stop loss, meaning I'll take this stop loss and I will start following price with my stop loss. What I like to do is I'd like to trail stop loss using market structure. So that is at least the plan here from a technical analysis perspective. Again, longer term, we are looking at this downtrend, trying to get to, or trying to see if we can catch a rally to the downside and continuation here. We recently broke out of consolidation and now seem to be retesting that area, which is kind of nice. So we're looking for some sell side there. Okay, next up, I want to show you guys a little bit of the data behind this. If we take a look at the market scanner, what you can see here is that on our score sheet, if we sort by highest rated sells, you can see a lot of euro pairs here. And that's what I've been watching here is specifically euro NZD. So on the open of this week, I basically chose to sell it. And here's a little bit of the reasoning why. On the screen, this is our data here that we've done for the Euro NZD. You can get access to this again in the description down below. If you use the promo code, you'll get a discount on the product. So this is something our team has worked on, but what this is showing us is all the different relevant data that we look at prior to taking trades. For example, we have different categories, the daily chart, just to look at the technicals, fundamentals, we can see all the different readings that are coming in, sentiment analysis, which we'll talk about in a moment, seasonality, etc. So if we get this -4 score, what we can see is that the retail sentiment, which is this little section over here, if we zoom in, what you can see is that the crowd here is 61% long on this currency pair. They're betting that it's going up. So if the crowd, which tends to lose money, is betting that things are going to go up, to me, that's a signal to potentially go against them. As we know, again, the retail crowd tends to get stuck trying to go against the trend. So that's one thing that is in our favor here, or in the -1 category, which tells us short bias on this currency pair. If you take a look at seasonality, this one's not really quite in our favor. In the month of July, it's a slight positive bend or positive bias towards the Euro NZD, though if you look at the red line here, that's going to show you that in the last 5 years, it's actually been slightly negative, so not a huge pull on seasonality. Next up, of course, is the trend reading, which is a pretty clear downward trend, so that's going to point towards selling the pair. If we look at GDP growth, that is going to be the one category where euro outpaces. What you can see here is that in the GDP growth specifically, when we're taking a look at the fundamentals, which is a key component to our trade analysis, again, chart patterns are great, but understanding the data behind market trends and why things are moving is going to be a pretty key component. So in Europe, there has been more positive growth recently than in New Zealand, but everything else on this list favors NZD. In fact, if we take a look at inflation, inflation is lower in New Zealand. If we look at interest rates, interest rates are much higher in New Zealand. That's a positive thing for buying the NZD over the euro. And again, these are all things that we talk about inside of the private group, as well as in some of my videos. You can see about interest rates and unemployment and that sort of thing. Unemployment is much lower in New Zealand, which of course is a good thing for bias towards buying NZD. So again, that's a little bit of the behind the scenes. Of course, I am taking trades based on the chart, but I'm also taking trades based on market data, which we study with the Edge Finder. Again, link is in the description. With that, what I'll do is I'll pause the video and we'll come back once things get going on this currency pair. I'll give you guys an update on the trade and we'll follow up and let you see the full trade start to finish here on YouTube, whether it's a win or a loss. All right, guys, so it is the next day here. I'm back in my office and taking a look at my Euro NZD trade. So far, things have been going well on this trade. If we actually pull up the profit and loss screen, you can see some of the details on the trade. There you go. So we're up $800 on the position.
That's good.
And remember, we risked $800. So just for a little bit of context, it's not like we're risking 200 or 400 on this one. We were risking a little bit more. I like the trade a little bit more. Took the trade, 198,000 units to the short side. And now at this point, we are sitting in a pretty good spot. So what we'll do here is I'm actually going to move my stop loss to break even. I'm going to lock in just about $50 on the trade as a break even point. And from here, what that will do is it'll tell us that, hey, if we, worst case scenario, if the market rebounds here and starts trending back the other direction, we're going to be out for a $50 profit.
$50?
Now, why am I doing that and what has told me to do so? Well, we hit about one R in terms of profit, meaning that our initial risk was up here. So we moved about that equal distance to the downside. Usually what I like to do when we start hitting that point is go ahead and take my risk off the table just as a precaution, because a lot of times what happens is you get markets that will, they'll start out well and then they'll eventually just kind of rocket the other direction. And if we do in fact put in a higher low here and we start trending higher, I just want to go ahead and be out of the trade. Anyways, the entry wouldn't have been as ideal as I thought. So anyways, we're currently floating again, $823 on the position. So from here, it's just a question of if we can actually get a nice follow through move. If we narrow in on this price action a little bit, what you'll see here is that right there, we've got a level of support. And this level here, historically, you can see the last couple days, we've really struggled to get below this level from sellers. So that's why, again, precaution-wise, I am going to go ahead and lock in my stop loss at break even in case this market can't break through the lows. Now, what I like, what's going for it, and why I'm still in the trade and why I'm not just closing out, is that we also got a nice level of rejection from our initial entry point, which actually ended up being a really quite good entry. You can see my entry was right here, trailed, fell over just as we were hoping for. And now the question is, can we get the breakout, right? The breakout is what's going to lead us, if it happens, to a profitable, a good position, like a good, I can trail my stop further sort of situation.
We've got to have money.
So there you go. That's where I'm at with the trade. What I'll do now is I'm going to go ahead and update members. I just actually did on my other account. I went ahead and trailed stops, put the details in the trade alert section for members, and there we go, float and break even. So now what we'll do is we will pause the video and come back once things get moving again. All right, guys, so it is the next day here. I'm just getting into the office and doing a little bit of an update on my current position on Euro New Zealand. You can see currently we are floating around $1,348 on the trade with our stop loss unmoved. Now it's a little bit of, this is where things get interesting. So I talk about this often on my channel, but you guys may have made a similar mistake to what a lot of new traders do, myself included. I did this all the time. A lot of new traders, they focus so hard on the entry, like they'll focus every effort of their trading into getting the perfect sniper entry so that they never get their stops hit. But that to me is way harder and way less constructive than what we're about to talk about right now. Right now, I'm going to show you what I believe to be more important in any trading strategy. How do you manage a trade once you're in it? Loss or win, how do you manage it? Because the profit and loss is not decided on your entry. The profit and loss is decided on how you close the trade. So let's talk a little bit about this Euro New Zealand situation. We've had a nice move to the downside, and what I was looking at here just before going live on the camera here, well, let me show you first. So remember our initial entry, right? Our initial entry, we had talked about the 50% retracement. After a pullback to this level, we did in fact get the rejection that we were looking for at that 50% zone, marked up with resistance as well. So at this point, we can confidently say that that entry was pretty good. It kept us in, didn't stop out. It was, the stop loss was never in true jeopardy of getting hit. So we were in a good spot. Beautiful entry, happy to be able to enter that trade and stay in the trade. Now, more importantly, how do we actually profit on this move? Here's the next step. So now we've got our entry from the initial point of the trade, which is great, but now we've got to actually go manage the trade. So let's go look at the 1 hour chart. And this is where I usually do a lot of my trade management, is on the 1 hourly candle. What I'm going to start doing is marking up key spots. So what we could identify is that even after entering our trade, we did in fact come into this area of resistance. We held this area beautifully, and we broke through this level of support. So looking left, what we have is key support being broken after several attempts to try to go lower. So on the break of this structure, that to me is a pretty big deal. So what I'd like to say here is that if I'm still in the trade and the market starts moving up, I really don't want to see this market break much higher than 1.63, as that is a pretty key spot of what was support, now turned ideally as resistance. So I don't want to see this market rally past this level. So what I am going to do is, if that market does rally out, I should probably identify that that's a stopping point for my trade. I really would like to see this thing continue after drawing our extensions or our fib retracements. I'd like to see it extend to the previous low here as kind of our next wave of where we could look to trail stops. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to go ahead and trail my stop loss here for this trade. So we'll go ahead and lock in at this point just above here. We'll go 130 or 1.6310, and we'll modify that, locking in $800 or so on the trade. Great spot to be in, considering the worst case scenario now is an $800 loss on this trade, which is floating around $1,400 at the time of filming this. So now let me just make sure I update members, and I'll show you guys that in just a second. Okay, and now take a look at this. Here is the update I just sent out to members inside of our private Discord group. By the way, there is a link down below in the description. If you would like to sign up for this, you can see the trades that I'm taking with full explanations and breakdowns behind every trade. It's not a signal service. We're not here to just, you just copy and make endless money. Like, that's not really how trading works. If you're familiar with my channel, you know that that's not something I'm interested in. But what I do with my trade alerts is I share explanations, broken down trades, why I'm taking a trade, why I believe the risk is worth the reward, etc., etc. I'm not here to tell you that trading is easy and that you can just copy my signals and you'll make endless amounts of money. But what I will do is, by joining our Discord, what I will say is you will certainly benefit in the form of learning, educational value. You'll be able to interact with other serious traders who have a similar mindset to what we talk about on this channel, as a lot of people who watch my channel end up joining the A1 Trading Discord. If you'd like to join that, again, link is down below in the description. Punch in that promo code and you'll get a subscriber discount. So anyways, that's where we're at with the trade, floating 1454 on the trade. Great spot to be in. We'll pause and give this trade a little bit more time to play out before giving you guys another update. All right, guys, we are all out of the trade here. Let me show you the transaction history. We just closed for $796 of profit here on Euro NZD. Price did ultimately not continue the way we were expecting, basically held support here. Now, of course, as I mentioned, sometimes a trade like this is going to be able to break out of this and continue lower, but unfortunately in this case, we did actually find some buyers, and with this rally here this morning, I'm just going to close out and take my $800 profit, and we will move on to the next trade. So good little move there. We caught the top of this range here, rode it all the way down, and after price price decided not to break through this low in a downward trend, we went ahead and took our profit. Now you might say, Nick, why didn't you just take profit once we started hitting support? And it's a very valid question, but if you are familiar with my trading style, what we know about markets that are trending is that one of my ideas or philosophies, whatever you'd like to call it, is that when we look at this sort of thing, what we'll notice is that when we actually come into a support level in a downward trend, we're actually expecting that to break, right? Now, resistance we find more valuable in a resistance or in a downward trend, but the idea of actually a support level is not as important in a downward trend. We're actually anticipating that if a downward trend is to continue, we'd expect this thing to shoot through support levels and continue a healthy downtrend. I hope that makes sense, but that is the logic there for why I didn't just take profits down in the lows. And so we'll have to watch this one, see if there's an opportunity to potentially rejoin the idea. But officially, we are out there for $800 of profit, 796.82. I will definitely take that. And thank you guys for watching. Remember, you can join the Discord down below if you'd like to join us. Hope to see some of you guys in there, and see you next time. Looks like it's time for your next trading video. Check out the videos here and here for more free trading content that should help you in your trading journey. We try and keep it real here, so make sure to subscribe for more content that is down to earth, realistic Forex trading content. See you in the next video.